let's get this night started. Hello and welcome. White Eldrazi for David Ochoa. So it is a Thorn of Amethyst deck, but it is not actually a Mishra's Workshop deck. Rich Shay, meanwhile, on the Stony Mentor deck that you and I both pretty much put him on. Interesting. So the under came in on the Mishra's Workshop bet. Glad I didn't take any action on that one.
Oh, because there's no workshops in there.
No, there's no workshops in the Eldrazi deck.
You're not playing workshop. All right.
The under came in. The bet was this match, to be fair. I said, how many workshops are we going to see in this match between Ochoa and Shay?
Okay. That makes sense.
I wasn't trying to get a read on you or.
I don't think you have it in you to play some workshops. I just don't.
No comment. All right, Rich Shay does not know what he's up against yet. Leads with a turn 1 Stony Silence that it's not crazy. I mean, depending on how Ochoa built the Eldrazi list, he might have a bunch of power in there. None of it in his hand, though, so the Stony Silence not actually going to do anything here.
Yeah, I mean, there's an argument to just play your library and pass, because if you're up against another control deck, you could just get it going. But I guess he feels David's probably on a workshop deck, so you want to get your mocks out early. You're probably going to have to force a will something, which is another reason that you're not going to be able to library. So I like I think that's sort of a player-dependent call. I think if he was up against like an Efro or someone who's not, I guess Efro plays shops, but someone who's not known to play shops, he might have just led with the library.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good point. There was actually quite the fork in the road there. And Rich even turned off his own Sapphire to get the Stony down.
Right, that's what I really truly believe. Then he must have really put Ochoa on workshops.
And he might still, by the way. Ancient Tomb and Thorn have not actually given up the ghost of what Ochoa is playing. Wasteland's not going to do it. Not going to tell us either. Don't you go Thalia, though? Yeah, it seems like this line is Cavern into Thalia. Your opponent's on Tundras. Just keep putting out as many Thorn-style effects as you can, right?
Yeah, I think you have to.
All right, this does mean he's committed to choose Human or Eldrazi here. He chooses Human. He wants to make Thalia
I believe that's why he was kind of debating. I think if you didn't have to make that choice now, say he had another Cavern in his hand, but because of that, it's like, do I really want to put this on Human? But I think you do. Double Thorn is just too good against the guy who's turned off his own mocks. Luckily, Rich has got a lot of land so far. I mean, he's not missed a land drop and got a 4th in hand, which is nice against those sphere effects.
Probably pay 3 to Swords Thalia here.
I think you do at least for sure when the Wasteland targets you. He probably does it now because he wants to keep up Force of Will.
That sounds right. And Ochoa is going to do the Wasteland inside of combat so that Rich can't float mana for a potential Force of Will.
Very smart play. Although if he did it second main and then he passed, then he would have to use that mana on Force, then it puts him back in his main phase and he could cast his spell anyways. But
well, Rich just is willing to let it float. Yeah, there's a couple of options there that only matter in corners, but all right, now what? Displacer?
Yeah, I mean, he's got nope.
He just passes. Can't he go? Oh, he played the Wasteland. I'm sorry. He didn't have the white mana for this.
He didn't have the white mana. I always forget that
Eldrazi,
it requires white mana and it's colorless for the activation. In my head, I always have that backwards.
Yeah, and in my head, I was like, play the Plains. Oh, yeah, Wasteland.
So Gush is nice here for this Wasteland that's coming up if he chooses to do it, but he's going to probably play Plains so he can get on the board. But if he plays a Plains and a Mox, so the Mox costs mana, so he still won't be able to play the Reality Smasher.
Mox is also turned off by Stony. Sapphire, pretty much a blank draw. Yeah, does he want a Wasteland or does he want to play a Displacer? Those are your choices.
I think he's going to go ahead and get on the board.
Reasonable. And he can get mana from okay, Ballista for 2.
Uses more of his mana better. Interesting. To force a will. I mean, it can't do anything. It's just literally a 2/2.
He keeps getting the Stony means it doesn't get any bigger than that. That was.
And it can't ping. I mean, it's just a 2/2 for 4.
At some level, I think Rich is worried. He has to hope that the rest of Ochoa's draw is bad because Rich is just out of gas. Although, if he doesn't force a will there, he's on library right now.
Yeah, I just don't think a 2/2 is that important to me right now at 16, especially because there are going to be other things you want to force a will. Maybe this turn after you library, or you know what I mean? Like, you're not going to die with this force a will and go, man, I wish I'd have force a will that. There's going to be something else to force a will coming up.
Yeah, if it wasn't for the Stony, I could see Ballista as a potential to win the game on its own threat, but Stony Silence was actually going to do some work there.
And now he's going to wish he had a force of will for this Reality Smasher. Oh, yeah, he has the mana, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess he's worried it might not resolve, and he might bait, but I think you just cast Reality Smasher here and start smashing.
I could imagine Wasteland plus Displacer, but I think I'm with you.
I guess if you do Displacer in Wasteland, well, see, the problem is if you do that, it forces you to draw another land for next turn to ever cast that Reality Smasher.
True. The argument in favor of using the Wasteland is that Shay can't currently gush, right? He's only got 1 island.
And you kill on the same number of turns. He's at 16, so it takes 4 turns of Reality Smasher. If you play Displacer and then attack with both, he dies on the same turn, assuming nothing.
You have to draw the 5th land is the trick.
Yeah, you have to draw the 5th land, and if you cast a Force of Will or a Wasteland, all of a sudden he's on a 3-turn clock. So I like actually just playing Reality Smasher because you shut off a lot of avenues by getting him down to 1.
There was the gush, so Ochoa did manage to play around gush with his Wasteland.
Jace flips. What is it in his graveyard? Swords to Plowshares if he chooses.
Yeah, I don't know if we can get the graveyards open. There we go.
Yeah, it's either Swords to Plowshares or take the Eldrazi Displacer down. I like to take it down, save that Swords for something that bigger that might come along.
Also lets him keep up Force of Will.
Exactly.
3rd Mox in a row. Stony Silence doing some good work. Does look like Ochoa's Eldrazi build has all the off-color Moxes in it.
Ooh, there we go. There's Daddy.
True story. Yeah, that decision not to play the Smasher, not working out so far.
So he flashed back on Swords to Plowshares.
And gets to leave up Force of Will.
Leave up Force of Will. I like that. Now this is interesting. I mean, if you have a Mentor in your hand, you can still play it. So I don't think Force of Will that, but it does kind of nullify your gush.
God, main deck Mindbreak crap too, Rich? Really?
See, this is going to be rough right here. If he does draw a Mana Source, oh, he drew another Mox. Gross.
Jeez, and 4 Moxes.
That was the window. If that Reality Smasher came out right there, he was going to have to kind of, you know, through 2 thorns, try to start making enough tokens and enough power to trade, because you can't even chump block it as trample. Now he's got Force of Will online and Gush if he chooses. Not looking good for Rich. Oh, and another Reality Smasher. This is brutal.
Rich going to go ahead and Gush. I think you get a Prowess trigger. Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah,
he'll still have Force of Will mana. So
you speed your clock, and you can cast both your Force of Will. You can only cast 1 because there are 2 thorns. But
right,
yeah.
He goes down to only being able to cast 1. But I mean, David hasn't done anything in a couple of turns. So library, we got there.
Another Stony Silence and a Mox, 2 cards that are kind of useless. At least Mindbreak Trap can be pitched to the Force of Will, but
Yeah, I mean, they're prowess triggers if Rich gets desperate for a prowess trigger.
Rich's deck is trolling him. I mean, David's deck is trolling him to the fullest.
You said you wanted mana. I gave you Mox, blank Lotus. Be more specific next time when you ask for mana.
I mean, if he draws right now this turn, like another Reality Smasher,
he has to draw Cavern of Souls exactly to make it uncounterable to even have a game. And even if he drew Cavern of Souls set to Eldrazi, I still think he loses to the Mentor. I think we're done. Game 1 anyway.
Yeah, Rich it looked like he was contemplating a Fragmentize, but then he realized that it would put down Force of Will. And I think that's more important right now. Make sure you can stop anything.
I can't help but take some of these cards personally, by the way. Stony Silence, Thorn of Amethyst, main deck Mindbreak Trap. It's almost like they thought I might play Paradoxical Outcome.
I'm on the hybrid of both. I have Thorn of Amethyst and Mindbreak Traps and Fragmentize and Stony Silence. It's totally anti-outcome. That's my list.
You guys are great.
I love how I bet Rich is probably like, what is going on over there? Why does he have 7 cards in his hand? What is happening? Ooh, Phyrexian Revoker.
Hey,
Nice.
that can block.
It can stop a Jace. It can block.
Stop a Jace for a turn until it's forced to chump block, I guess. Do Force of Will, I guess, because you get a Monk and now you're 1 prowess trigger from lethal. Sure. Cast something. Oh, that's a good one. Cast Treasure Cruise. Can even delve an extra 2 to pay for the Thorns. Delve 9. Good card.
Delve gets past Thorn. I wish there was more stuff.
It feels so good. I don't know why it feels so good, but it really does.
I wish things like Force of Will and things I said without the mana cost, you were just like, no, it's part of the mana cost. It's gone. It's free now. Like, I hate Thorns. I hate Sphere effects. Every time I think of if I design my own card, it's literally like 1 red and destroy target artifact, and you can pay 1 colorless less for each artifact your opponent controls. So effectively, spheres just don't affect it. And you can destroy an extra artifact for each artifact over 2 they control. So get out of here, spheres.
Sure. All right. What do you see in these sideboards that's relevant here?
Let's see. It looks like, man, Rich has got a lot of graveyard hate. Did he put somebody on Dretch, Tormod's Crypts, Grafdigger's Cages?
He's not messing around.
Disenchants, another Sword, another Stony, and a Supreme Verdict looks like what he's probably bringing in. What's that card after Stony Silence? Rest in Peace. God, another graveyard card. Really?
Is that Rest in Peace? I thought those were Disenchants.
No, there's a Rest in Peace right there. He really put one of us on.
He's got 3 Crypts, 3 Cages, and a Rip, doesn't he? All right.
I guess he figured he didn't need it. And then it looks like Webb. He's usually that deck's kind of pre-sideboarded, but you might want to bring in maybe a Dismember.
Sure. I don't think he's touched his deck yet.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it. Yeah, look at Rich. 3 Dak Fadens. That's actually huge. Don't see that very often.
It's a lot of Dak Faden.
3 Mental Missteps in the board of Webb's deck. He might even bring that in to combat Swords and Fragmentize.
Cute.
3 Mental Missteps also for Rich coming out. Pyroblast coming out. 1 Dak, which is interesting because Dak is one of the stronger cards against them, but I guess, having 3 is quite a bit.
I mean, Dak's only okay against Eldrazi. It's great against Workshops.
You're right. Eldrazi shops. I had a brain fart for a second. I was thinking it's regular shops.
No, it's Ochoa. It's hard not to think he's on Workshops. I mean, if you steal Ballista, steal a Lodestone Golem, but that's about it.
Wow, no Jace and Rich's deck either. 2 Pyroblast? Was that one in the main?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
We will get the lists before we get to play either one of these, obviously. Players get the lists after the second match. Then they get posted on the website tomorrow.
So is Webb here? Did he time out? I don't think he's touched his sideboard, has he?
He might just be good with it. I mean, wouldn't you just build your Mentor deck with the version that you expect? I mean, build your deck in the configuration you wanted against Mentor.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just think what are the dismembers for?
Fair. Hope he's not having any connection issues.
Someone said they saw his mouse move.
All right. Looks like we're off.
Webb's got a lot of mana in his opening hand. No actual lands.
The Mox Pearl is so good in White Eldrazi.
He's got the Mox Pearl.
And the Mana Crypt. Like, the two best cards in the deck, I believe, are Mox Pearl and Mana Crypt. And he's got both of them.
How many decks are you like, I've got the Mox Pearl. I got my Mox Pearl. That's the Mox that gets cut when people want to run 4. He's got the Mox Pearl. It's what he's been wanting. Rich's hand is a clear mulligan. I mean, he is on the draw, but I don't know what he's thinking about. I mean, I don't want a hand where even if I draw one land and I can hopefully cast Ancestral, I mean, a first turn Thorn and good luck, good game.
Yeah. Yeah, they must still be on Webb.
Which is interesting if Webb's thinking about this hand. I mean, because like if you lead with a Thorn, you can't play another. If you lead with a Thorn, you can't play a Displacer. So it is tough as to what you start with.
I mean, whatever. You're not mulliganing. I think it's just more likely he walked away from his computer and just got back.
Yeah, I mean, it's scary, right? Like if Webb leads and plays a Displacer and he goes, okay, turn 1 Stony Silence, all of a sudden his hand just does nothing. He's literally got nothing. But
Stony Silence is the thing Webb has to hate, has to sweat. Interesting. I like the way he sequenced that, actually. He slow rolled the Pearl so that Rich wasn't sure quite what was going on, knowing that, well, if one Thorn resolves, he can pay 1 for the Pearl. And if it doesn't resolve, then he can still play the second Thorn. So subtle thing, but he sequenced that to give Rich as little information as possible when Rich had to make a Force of Will decision.
Webb's a very in tune player. The Taxian Probe, I'm surprised it made it through the week. I don't know. I was thinking it might be going. Me and Aoife were talking.
I would cut it. Yeah, just get rid of anything with Phyrexian mana. We'll just get rid of all of them.
Well, I mean, 1 Phyrexian mana, yeah. Dismember's fine, but cards that cost just Phyrexian mana are a little absurd.
Dismember's not as offensive, but still dumb. Oh, my blue-white deck. Of course, I'll put Dismember in it. That's how Magic is supposed to work.
So it looks like we've got a Displacer racing a Jace. Luckily, he's going to have a second Displacer. See, I guess now he's going to have a second Displacer to kind of help that war out. He's already at 15. He's done a lot of damage himself, so it's only a 5-turn clock right now.
I mean, Rich had to pay both a mana and 2 life for that Git Probe. I can't imagine Preordain here. He's going to leave up Force of Will and not play the Chase?
Leave up Force of Will. I kind of like that because but then it's kind of rough because you're going to either use your Jace to Force of Will or the blue cards you get off Preordain.
Well, you can't Preordain and leave up Force of Will. Preordain costs 2.
Oh, yeah, it costs 2.
Your turn is either Jace or Force of Will. I think I would have played Jace, but it's a bad spot either way.
Well, he can next turn, right? He can play both, assuming he gets if he doesn't use his Force of Will. Now he can play his 3rd land and play Jace and leave a mana up. So maybe that's, and he really has no answer to like a Reality Smasher or anything monster, anything large. So I think he kind of has to do that.
And to be fair, Rich did know that Ochoa's hand was exactly an Eldrazi Displacer. So Rich probably figured, okay, I'll Force of Will the 1/3/3. Then all I need to do is deal with 1 Displacer. Unfortunately for Rich, Webb top decked exactly Cavern of Souls. Rich knew his hand, just didn't know the top card of his library. Turns out it was a Cavern. So
that's the freaking brutal right there. He time walked himself and then got Cavern, and now he's got a 2-turn clock. He's got to find something. That was absurd what that just did to this game.
Yeah.
I guess he does. He has Jace he can block with. Although he can blink the Jace. He's got mana to just move that Jace out of the way. It does return it tapped, right?
Yeah.
Eldrazi
Displacer clears blockers.
That's game. We're going to game 3, ladies and gentlemen. Now, it makes you think, if that Jace had come out on turn 2, this would be a way different game right now.
Well, it's not like Rich actually found a Swords to Plowshares. Like, he needed to play the Jace. He then needed to find some way to kill a Displacer. And he kind of needed to do it before the other Displacer came down. So I think Webb wins this game anyway, but the Cavern definitely made it a blowout. Yeah. Rich says go, says to David, all right, do you know how Eldrazi Displacer works? Webb says, yes, in fact, I do know how Eldrazi Displacer works. Rich says, fine, let's go to sideboarding.
So, man. Yeah, I think I still play the Jace there because, I mean, you can take down the creature if you need to. You can flashback the Preordain if it gets to that, if you're in a pinch.
I mean, if he didn't know that Webb's hand was exactly one dorky creature, then I think Jace is the correct play. But having seen Webb's hand, I actually think Rich's line is at least defensible and probably correct.
No, I don't think it's bad, yeah. Someone says he pitched Supreme Verdict to the first Force of Will. Did I miss that?
Is that true?
I couldn't see when he exiled. It was so quick, but if it was, wow, that's a rough beat to go out like that.
That would have changed the game. Did he get to the...
I don't think he got to 5 mana, though.
Yeah, that was a good question. Sounds like, yes, he pitched it, but he died at 4 mana.
So he would have never cast it.
But like a Jace chomp block early might have changed it. I don't know. Game goes kind of different.
Luis in the chat is of the opinion that Dismember is good against a Jason Mentor deck, but he doesn't know what you would pull out to bring them in. And I agree. I think if you're not bringing Dismembers for Mentors, what's it for? I mean, I guess in the mirror, he has Ghost Quarters, maybe Dismembers if he wants to kill Thought-Knots, opposing Reality Smashers, but...
Yeah, it could totally be for Eldrazi. I don't hate Containment Priest in this matchup either. Like, you can flicker away the monks in theory, and if you get Containment Priest Displacer going, then everything is just gone forever.
Yeah, and it's just 2-drop. You can play at the end of their turn for pressure. I mean, this deck's shown it. Pressure is something that you want to apply to it. It doesn't have all day. I mean, if you playing Thorn effects with creatures is what you want to do. You don't want to play Thorn effects and just not play creatures or not resolve them.
Yeah, I guess the thing Ochoa has that is Walking Ballista. Like, that's probably the weakest card in his deck, but like, I'm looking through his list. What would you cut? You got 29 mana sources. You can't really mess with them.
Yeah, it's tough. Walking Ballista is it, right? You don't want to ever cut your Chalice, your Lodestone, your Trinisphere, any of your Eldrazi.
I mean, Revoker is the other card that's, I guess, on the bubble. Third and fourth Displacers, I don't love. I don't know. They worked out that game, though. Sometimes you just need a Trained Armadon to attack with.
Yeah. Definitely not pulling your Thalias or your mana sources. So, yeah, it's either got to be Ballista, maybe a Displacer or two, and maybe a Revoker. Although you've seen Jace. You haven't seen Dak yet, but you've seen Red Mana, so you got to expect Dak, and it's pretty good against Planeswalkers. Game 3. Ooh, very solid hand for Rich. And
very mediocre hand for Webb.
Lots of disruption, but if you're on the play, that hand might be a little better.
Right.
But on draw, I think it's just not going to cut it.
Yeah, I think I agree with both those things.
He kept.
It's defensible. It does a thing, right?
No, I mean, I think you keep it. It's just unfortunate the way the hands are lining up and the draw getting to go first or second. I think it's just not going to work out well for him unless the top of his deck is really good to him.
Right. I mean, Webb's hand does essentially destroy 5 of Rich's mana.
Because right now his play literally is land go.
Yeah.
And then Rich is going to get to play Mentor with Gush backup for the Wasteland, which makes a token, and then he's off to the races. I mean, at that point, it's going to be too hard.
Then we get to start blowing up his lands after he has a Mentor and a Monk token in play. It'll be great.
And mana to cast a Swords to Plowshares on your Thalia.
Yeah.
Which is going to generate another token.
Yeah, I think that's a sketchy key for Webb. I don't know. I mean, we saw Rietzel keep a hand playing when he was playing with Eldrazi. It was basically turn 1 land go. And the argument was, look, I'm playing a deck with a bunch of dorky creatures in it. You have to keep these.
Well, Rietzel does not mulligan. As a teammate of his for many years, he does not mulligan unless he has to. So that doesn't surprise me. Wow, Gitaxian Probe was an excellent draw here. Just another month.
It was. And he managed to get the second island into play before the Wasteland could do any damage. Fetch lands are good that way. Gosh, sure looks like Rich Shay is going to win this game.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine a sequence that could come out of Webb's deck right here to kind of combat this and get him back in it.
So two wins, you clinch Season 7, right? That's how it works. Rich is going to feel good being 1-0 rather than 0-1. But in theory, it could still be a trio of 1 and 2 players with a single 3-0.
Or it could be 3 2-1s and a single 1-2.
Well, 3 2-1s would be with an 0-3, but yeah. Point being Sorry?
Could it work out where you also be one? I mean, you still be last, but it couldn't be 2-1s.
It can be 2 2-1s and 2 1-2s.
Okay, yeah. I guess
1 and 2 is in trouble unless somebody 0-3s. So it's the second win that clinches Season 7.
There's no combo where you can go 2-1, 2-1, 2-1, and 1-1-2?
It's 2 2-1s and 2 1-2s.
Well, I know that works. I just feel like...
Well, but it always has to add up to 500, right? It always has to be the same number of wins and losses, so... 3 2-1s can only be paired with...
I was missing a key point to this story.
Right.
So now he gets to cast the swords. Yeah, this is just gross. I mean, he's got gushes with backup gushes.
Yeah, I mean, basically with Ochoa's keep, he either needed to top deck fast mana, a Mox, for example, or he needed Rich to have a slow draw, and neither one of those things happened, so... Sure looks like Rich is going to strike first blood here. I don't even know how does Webb even get out of this? Like, he needs a ballista to start gunning down mentors?
Yeah.
Gunning down monks?
And even that, I mean, you can just gush when you remove and kill one, and you get to get one, not the other. I mean, this is just... None of his cards do anything in this situation. He's got 6 cards, not one of them do anything in this situation.
Chalice is going to blank a lot of Rich's top decks, I guess. Like,
yeah, but even then, he can just cast them for a prowess trigger.
True.
You know, to make a token and kill you fast.
Yes. I mean, Chalice is a powerful card in the matchup, but I don't think Webb can beat Rich's board right now.
Here goes the insulting gush.
Up comes the first gush.
Yeah, Ochoa needs a balance of his own.
Balance. That would be a good card. Does Webb have a balance? He should run a balance in that list.
Is that in your 93, 94 deck?
Of course.
Okay.
100%.
Gotta play this for me. I'm gonna have to. Good thing I just won some money at a big tournament. I can just buy a bunch of cards.
Oh yeah. You it sounded like you were disappointed to bust out of that poker tournament, but it was still a good run. Big picture.
No, I was happy. I don't play very much, so anymore with my daughter, but I was just so close to winning, man. I was just right there. And me and Ifra were chatting during the tournament. He goes, "You need to win this so you can just buy everything for 93, 94. Just buy it all, one shot." I'm going to buy 5 of the best decks. Revoker, I guess he can turn off the Mox Sapphire, and he's got some Wastelands, but like I said, at this moment, that Revoker's going to have to block a Monk token.
I guess the dream here is that Rich doesn't have a prowess trigger. It's not much of a dream, but that's all we got.
Wow, and he's even got another Gataxian probe. So now that he can't even block the Mentor itself, he has to block a token. Black Lotus. This is just... Is he dead right now? Let's see. He blocks 4. He can take 9. Yeah, not dead yet, but...
Yeah, I mean, Rich would have to gush into a cantrip, I think, to threaten. I don't think it's worth it.
Well, the thing is, though, if he attacks now for 13 and Rich doesn't block, then Gush just kills him.
Oh, true. Yeah, sure. Play a land and attack. See what happens.
Here we go. You almost kind of, he's going to have, yeah, see, Rich is just going to look for a cantrip. I mean, I guess Swords to Plowshare. Because if he just attacks with mana open, he's not going to just take it and say, any spell kills me. And he found Swords to Plowshare, which does kill him. Exactly.
All right. Found the plow. No blocker for you.
2 over.
Coming over for 21.
Blackjack.
Even the Sword's life doesn't save him. All right. There you go. Match number 1 in the books. We've got a mentor deck for tonight. We've got a White Eldrazi deck for tonight. We've got Rich Shay 1-0. We've got Ochoa.
4 unique decks yet?
Interesting. Didn't like some of the group 1, Rodrigo always shows up with something weird. We've had some good nights.
Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
No, we're not going to have unique decks tonight either. Don't worry. No, I'm just kidding. You never know. I'm not going to give away anything. I could be on one of those. I might not. I might be on Shop. I could be on Dredge. Who knows?
Tell you what. Let's go down. All right. Here you see the scoreboard. We have a lot of green thumbs, a lot of red thumbs by the end of this evening. But coming up next, my column's looking kind of empty. David's column is looking kind of empty. And I know that we're both curious to see the last 2 decks of the evening. I know you guys are too. Stay tuned. We will be back with match number 2 right after these messages.